कौन सा चैप्टर करना है? स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. So we completed planning. Planning में completed. ठीक है. Plans and priorities. How much did we complete? Finished. सही है. Second RC. We'll write a few things, guys. So I'll start dictating. Right. State administration. The first point is union-state relations. We were at state secretariat. Acha. PDF, na? I can't find that PDF. What was the last thing? Last class recorded होगा ना? So state administrative machinery we have done. Chief Secretary we were studying, na? So we'll start from Chief Secretary. Chief Secretary. Got it. Finance commission we haven't done. Finance commission we haven't done. Okay. So chief secretary. Okay, oh, got it, got it. Chief secretary PDF I can't find. Write something about chief secretary. From state secretariat I haven't made anything. ठीक है. You write something about chief secretary. Till what you have notes? Which chapter you have notes? Paper to nothing. Have you sent to everybody? Chief secretary, right? Chief secretary is the linchpin of state administration. Chief secretary is the linchpin of state administration and the apex of state bureaucracy. Apex of state bureaucracy. So chief secretary is manned by, the post of chief secretary is manned by the senior most civil servant in the state. Senior most civil servant in the state. He acts as, he or she, uh, chief secretary acts as the principal advisor to the chief minister. Acts as the principal advisor to the chief minister. So chief secretary is the primary, right? Is the primary administrative advisors on all matters. Next point is the chief secretary prepares all the agenda for cabinet meetings. The agenda for cabinet meetings, records the minutes, and ensures the implementation of cabinet decisions. Ensures the implementation of cabinet decisions. So he acts as the secretary to the state cabinet. Next point, the chief secretary acts as the chief coordinator, and its vital function is to coordinate the activities of all ministries, and departments, resolving interdepartmental disputes. The chief secretary acts as the head of the state secretariat. Head of the state secretariat. So entire state secretariat comes under the chief secretary. Okay. So next, topic is the state secretariat. State secretariat. So state secretariat is the nerve center. Or brain of the state government, nerve center or brain of the state government, responsible for policy formulation, responsible for policy formulation. There are various ministries and departments that are part of state secretariat. The political head is the minister. The political head is the minister, and the administrative head is the secretary. The administrative head is the secretary, who is assisted by hierarchy of joint secretaries, deputy secretaries, and under secretaries. Now comes policy formulation. Now, what is the function of state secretariat? First is policy formulation under the functions of state secretariat. Functions of state secretariat. First is policy formulation, that is to assist the minister in policy making. Assist the minister in policy making, drafting bills, and framing rules. Drafting bills and framing rules. Next point under functions of state secretariat, financial control. To prepare and monitor the budget for the department. Prepare and monitor the budget for the department. Budget for the department. Supervision and control. Supervision and control. To exercise oversight over the directorates and field agencies. Ensuring policies are implemented as intended. Next function is coordination. To coordinate with other departments and the union government. So union government is important here, and the union government. Next, right, the secretariat. The secretariat is a staff agency. Focused on policy. It does not engage in direct execution. So till now, what have we understood about the secretariat? Now understand secretariat very, secretariat, two things, secretariat and directorate are very important, and questions are directly asked. We'll also discuss a question, write down a question also. Secretariat. Now within the secretariat, there are different different bodies doing different functions. So there is the secretary's office, chief secretary's office, and there are different secretaries for particular departments. Yes. For example, housing and urban affairs, there is a secretary. There is a Ministry of Mining, there is a secretary. So they, so these are headed by secretaries. Who are these secretaries? Which service are they from? Indian Administrative Services. Now remember this very importantly, Indian Administrative Services. For example, the Indian Police Service. Why not Indian Police Service? Why not Indian Revenue Service? Secretariat we are talking. Why not Indian Revenue Service? For example, Ministry of Finance. Okay. Now, Ministry of Finance, there are four different departments within the Ministry of Finance. Okay? Department of Revenue, Department of what do you say, Economic Policy, and Department of Budget. So within those departments, there are secretaries of those departments. Who become secretaries of those departments? IAS, right? So Finance Ministry. Now, finance is a function that is very much what do you say? Is a very specialized function. Right? Making economic policy is a very specialized function. Then why is an IAS officer sitting there? Why is that person sitting there? Similarly, Secretary of what do you say? Department of Revenue within the Finance Ministry of a particular state. Department of Revenue's secretary, administratively, it is headed by an Indian Administrative Service officer. Why so? The logic behind it. What is, I mean, Department of Revenue should be headed by an IRS officer, for example. That person who has the whole life he has done uh, revenue services, part of a revenue services. Similarly, things like home ministry. The home ministry's big, huge responsibility is law and order. Why isn't an IPS officer sitting there as the secretary? Why is this so? Because administration is a very generic function. Public administration, have we studied anywhere in public administration? We have had so many classes. Have we ever studied that so for somebody to become a public administrator or public administrators in general, do we say that these are all the requirements? No, right? We just say there is a manager or there is an administrator. There are no requirements for educational qualification, is there? No. There is no specialization you have to do. So, especially why I am saying Indian administrative services, not police service, not revenue service, not foreign service, not forest service. I'm not saying all of that. Especially Indian administrative services. Because they do a work that is very generic in nature. Generic in the sense, the administrative functions does not require a specialist. It requires a generalist. That is why, even though police administration is manned by Indian police services, when it comes to the law and order function of the district, the SP is responsible to the district magistrate. Yes. Why is that so? Because law and order is of course a specialist function, but administering law and order is a generic function. Yes. So all the police functions, SP is answerable to his IPS senior. It's the SSP. But when it comes to law and order administration of the district, there are two functions. There are administrative functions and police functions. Yes. For administrative functions, he is answerable to the district magistrate. This is done because general administration is general administration. You don't have to be a specialist in technology or a specialist in law to take care of these things. Similarly, if you see a hospital administration, if you see all of these top management or top private hospitals, such as the Apollo group, for example, Apollo hospitals we all have seen, Max hospitals. So Do you think in the board meetings or the people who actually run the whole hospital chains, this whole business that they run, do you think in that board meeting any doctors sit necessarily? No, right? Oh, management graduates sit and they take business decisions. Should we expand into this territory or not? Should we open up this particular hospital in this district or not? Should we bring in these functions or not? How much should be our pricing, etc. Doctors are doing what? Doctors are doing this level work, doctors are doing, treating patients. Here, nurse, ward boy, they are not very much specialized. So specialization increases till this level, it decreases here. It decreases at the top level. Specialization decreases at the top level. Generic management comes in, generic administration. So, you all know Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs, you all know. Steve Jobs did not have a tech degree. He did not have a technology degree. He was not an engineer. Dropped out in his first year or something. He was an artist by profession. The jobs he did, I mean, Steve Jobs, the job he did, the work he did, was of CEO, Chief Executive Officer. So here, you do not have to be a technology whiz to be a CEO of a tech company that you yourself have found. You must be knowing this company, Mindtree. Mindtree, you have heard? Mindtree is a software company. So it was headed by a person called Subrata Bagchi. So Subrata Bagchi was a normal political science graduate. So he headed a huge tech company. What does this mean? It means at the level of where these decision makings are made, these are very generic functions. So this is the term that why I am emphasizing this a lot is because from now on, a lot of questions will be asked on from the topics we'll do. A lot of questions will be asked on specialization and generalist services. This is a debate that will go on, and a lot of debates will happen on this. And under this chapter, this debate starts: generalist versus specialist debate, and this will dominate a lot of spectrum of present Indian administration. Now, the question arises: who should head a department? You must have heard, or you must have seen, there is a, I guess last class I discussed only, that Prime Minister was giving a speech, I guess 6-7 years ago, around 2017, 2018. Prime Minister was saying कि ये जो बाबू लोग हैं, बाबू मीन्स IAS, ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट भी चलाएंगे, ये मिनिस्ट्री भी चलाएंगे, ये प्लेन भी उड़ाएंगे, सब कुछ कैसे कर सकते हैं? Basically, he was saying Air India is a what? It's an aviation company. है ना? Why in Air India's board are bureaucrats sitting? They don't know how to run an aviation business, right? So Air India, when it was sold, of course, the data we took out that day was per day it was losing 20 crore rupees. Per month, kitna hua? 600 crore rupees. That means huge amount of losses it was running. So the very point is now recently what the government has brought in, all of these government companies will now not be headed by bureaucrats. It will be headed by actually professionals who are recruited specifically from the private sector, who are given a tenure for 3 years or 5 years to head these conglomerates. For example, ONGC. ONGC's work is what? Exploration, mining of oil and natural gas. So ONGC's function, now ONGC's head, if it is a bureaucrat, I mean that person has not run a business. They haven't run an industry particularly. They have run districts, of course. They have run geographical territories and government administration, of course. But running a company is very much different from running a government administrative setup. That is why the criticism comes in that why would bureaucrats head these government institutions or companies, especially, even though they are government ruled. So for this, the government brought in a lot of changes that professional management will come in. So now, if you go ahead and see all of these government companies, all of these big companies, nowhere are bureaucrats seen at the top level. All are by people who are professionals in nature, management professionals who have been recruited specifically to run these kind of industries. So this shows what? This reduces two things. It reduces the politicization of the company, because now the ministry cannot directly control the bureaucrat and make uh, things happen. And it gives, what do you say, manpower autonomy to the company. Company does not depend on the government to get a manpower. So that manpower, for example, there is a 3-year tenure or a 5-year tenure of the CEO. That CEO now can take decisions. They have autonomy to take decisions. This shows a particular uh, tendency towards professionalization of companies and professionalization of decision making bodies. That's why you will see SEBI was under a lot of criticisms recently. SEBI was headed by a woman called Madhavi Puri Buch. Was her name. Madhavi Puri Buch. She was not any officer or anything. She was a professional, of course. She was not the part of the bureaucracy. But she was brought into the SEBI so that private sector expertise in management can be brought in, so that why these things are done. Now, when it comes to generalist versus specialist debate, why this discussion I am doing is, now tell me, when we professionalize the top brass of the management, what theory of paper are we discussing? What theory are we applying? Hmm? Management by objectives. Something larger. Of course, Peter Tucker apply hoga, but something larger. New public management. New public management how? New public management says what? Bring in private sector expertise to the public sector. Now, who are heading the public sector? People who are private sector professionals who are now reforming the public sector companies. This is the idea of new public management, isn't it? You bring in those management expertise of the private sector to the public sector. Understood? Okay. Now, coming back to this. Now you understand the problem with generalist administration. Generalist administration is what? If you make IAS as part of top level decision making, especially in companies and all, that means there is no professional training they have received how to run a company. Plus, they are not specialists in running a company. Yes. Now, there are two parts of the debate. People who say you don't need specialization to run a company. Say, of course, you need specialization. If there are options between making somebody CEO of a tech company, one side there is a graduate who is specialist in tech, another person who has just studied literature from some college. Of course, Steve Jobs and Subrata Bakshi are handpicked examples, but we don't see this happening in day-to-day every company. The specialist who eventually reach at the top level, they become it. Now, this graph or this pyramid that I was teaching you, from this pyramid, when a person who is a doctor here becomes dean of the hospital, or who is a teacher here becomes dean of the university or the college, a master becomes a headmaster. Don't you think administrative activities? The headmaster then does not take all the classes. The principal does not come and take all the classes. He or she might teach one class. Teaching is not the specific function. Administration is the specific function. So any day you would want somebody from here to get elevated here, right? Because that person knows the pyramid from top to bottom. Yes, that is why the criticism will begin that we don't want generalist officer to head certain departments. We want actually IRS officers to go to become secretary of Department of Revenue. We want people from audit and account services to become secretary to the CAG, yes, or to become the CAG. Sorry, why? Because comptroller and auditor general. What is the work of comptroller and auditor general? To audit the government accounts, right? Now, Indian Audit and Account Service Officer, he might have been working since the last 35 years in audit and accounts. He specifically know that thing from in and out. And suddenly at the end of the career, Indian Administrative Service Officer will come and take over that position. So this brings what? This does not bring specialization to the top. It brings in generalists to the top. That is why initiative, reform, those things are not there very much. Yes. Now, see, when it comes to generalist versus specialist debate, now, of course, in terms of specialists, we have a lot of arsenal from their side. But generalists' part is, of course, after NPM, good governance, new public service, these ideas came coming. What do they say? What do good governance as an idea say? What was the problem in NPM, new public management? What was the problem in NPM? Think. Client orientation and making government act like a business. Argument, the sharpest argument from the generalist side is government is not business. Government has larger responsibilities. Somebody who knows India from the block level to the secretariat level, that person at least should sit in a table where decisions related to millions of Indians are taken. Because government's company's responsibility, such as ONGC's responsibility, is not only to make profit, its responsibility is to take care of the strategic interest of India and Indians. Yes. Now, when Air India became privatized, a person from Turkey was selected as the CEO of Air India. Lot of hue and cry started. Air India is a strategic asset of the country. Even if it is sold to the Tatas, it is a strategic asset to the country. Turkey is a country that has been in loggerheads with India in a lot of forum. So, if you make a person from a country CEO of one of the biggest airlines in India, that means India's strategic interest can be compromised. That is why he was not made, and I guess some guy from England was made. Of course, this is not the best example, or this is not how things should be done. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, an organization is much, when a government organization we are talking about, its interests are a lot more than business interest. If Air India is losing 20 crores per day, even if BSNL is losing 100 crores per day, it is in the strategic interest of Indians for the government to stay in sectors which are very much strategic in nature. Yes, that is why the role of government is not only to make money, it is to take care of public interest. So if through ONGC or making ONGC profitable, of course, the company becomes profitable, but lot of strategic investment that has been made. For example, ONGC has made a strategic investment, P4 investment in certain areas. For example, it has made certain strategic investment in Iran. It has made certain strategic investment inside of Africa, in the Indian Ocean, and those are loss making in nature. If a private sector entity comes in, private sector individual comes in, He'll only see what? He'll only see these are loss-making entities. We should not pour a lot of money into. But there might be geopolitical interest of India there. Yes. So basically, how the government thinks and how private sector thinks, there is a significant gulf between these two. Because government thinks in a very public interest way. Private only thinks in efficiency and profit making. That is why you want those people who have been part throughout their life, they have been in public service. You want those people at least sitting on the table, at least if not calling the shots. Are you able to understand? That is why even if you see today organizations like DRDO, DRDO is a specialist organization. But from the PMO, there is an officer assigned, an OSD is assigned to DRDO who will stay there and ensure the interest of PMO is taken care of or not. That might be seen that okay, bureaucracy is being used to control or arm twist these specialist organizations. But of course, what is the job of DRDO? To work in technology that is in public interest. How do you ensure this? You ensure representation of public-minded individuals to be there. So this generalist versus specialist debate will continue forever till the time these things are there. But we need to just understand it from a perspective where we can write answers. So generalist versus specialist debate will study specifically. Now, under this particular scenario, Secretariat's function is what? Secretariat is a policy making body. What is it making? It is getting all the information from the ground level. So who is a secretary? One of the most senior most IAS officers in the state. So that person will receive a lot of information from the ground. The ministry or the minister or the chief minister, any minister, concerned minister, they'll instruct him that okay, these are the things that we need to do. Government wants to make this particular policy. So in this particular policy, what you do is they collect information from the ground level. They use the joint secretaries, under secretaries, everybody to frame a particular policy. That policy is framed. Now these secretaries, they don't go down and implement it. They don't go down and, for example, water management system is to be made. What is that government scheme? Pradhan Mantri, what water pipe, water taps at every home. Har Ghar Jal. What is that scheme called? Okay, for example, making water pipe connections to every house. Okay. Now, who will do that? A IAS officer does not specifically know how to fit a pipe, how to lay down the groundwork. Who will do that? The state engineering department will do that, right? Now, state engineering department will get information from the secretariat. Yes. The secretariat will get the information that okay, this scheme has to be. Now, the secretariat will oversee the functioning of the directorate, whether the directorate is working fine or not. So, directorate is the implementing agency, secretariat is the policy making agency. Okay. In secretariat sit the generalists. In directorate sit the specialists. Now, if a particular policy in finance ministry is being made, that policy in finance ministry or the finance secretariat, revenue secretariat, there are different secretariat within the finance. Within the finance secretariat, what is being done is within the finance secretariat, they are making a particular policy and it is being implemented. For example, new tax regime, GST changes have been done. So within the GST changes, what is being done is people are who implements it. IRS officers who are commissioners implement it. Yes. And at the lower level, the Indian Revenue Service implements it at the day-to-day level. How much is the revenue estimation of it? This is checked, and then tax is collected, indirect taxes. Now, when this thing happens, policy is being made at the finance ministry, implemented at the ground level by specialist officers. Yes. So, but who is making policy in the finance ministry? There are IS officers who are sitting and making policy. At the ground, people who are implementing it are not IAS officers, Indian Revenue Services. This shows what? This shows generalists are making policies, specialists are implementing it. So if a medical policy has to be made, that medical policy will be made in a secretariat of the state. How to arrange hospitals, etc., etc., things like that. Within this scenario, how to arrange these hospitals or things like that, a generalist is making it. A doctor is not sitting and making those policies. You all understand this? Secretariat and directorate difference, because directly questions will be asked from here. So you write a few things in directorate. These directorates are the executive arms of the government, responsible for policy implementation at the ground level. Responsible for policy implementation at the ground level. They are the line agencies. They are the line agencies. That means the hands of the government. The secretariat decides what to do. The directorate make sure makes sure how it's done, or is concerned with how it's done. Directorate is headed by something known as head of the department or HOD, such as chief engineer, commissioner of police, basically a technical specialist. Direct, director of revenue. Now write the next point: secretariat directorate relationship. The problem: there is often conflict between generalist secretary, that is the IAS, in the secretariat, and the specialist director in the directorate. And the specialist director in the directorate. The secretary controls the government policy. Sorry, the secretary controls the department's policy. Secretary controls the department's policy and finances. Policy and finances. While the director possesses the technical expertise. The view of the secretariat the view of the secretariat is that the secretariat must control, secretariat must maintain control, sorry. Secretariat must maintain control to ensure policies align, to ensure policies align with broad government objectives and financial rules. Then comes the directorate's view. The directorate's view. Yeah. Ask. हम्म? तुमने कुछ किया था क्या? तुम लोग उस दिन कहाँ थे? क्यों? रूम? उस दिन करोल बाग मार्केट? अमोनियम नाइट्रेट फर्टिलाइजर से यूज होता है. हाँ. रेड फूड में क्या ही लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है. Somebody was saying, I mean, NDTV में ही कोई बता रहा था कि they wanted to plan like a Mumbai like attack in Delhi. 2008 वाला अटैक जैसे हुआ था. अरे ये सब तो कॉन्स्पिरेसी चलते ही रहते हैं. 800 साल पुराना शो है. People don't actually point accountability to where it should be. फोकस ये जाता है कि हाँ क्यों कौन कैसे किया, ये सब ये नहीं कि भाई सरकार कहाँ थी. सिक्योरिटी फेलियर पे कोई बात नहीं होगा. When Mumbai happened, bhai, lot of changes were brought in terms of laws and all. Previously, NSG used to be at one place. Now their centers have been distributed across the country, so that any major city NSG can reach within 15 minutes. Because especially when Mumbai attacks happened, I guess NSG came after I don't know, 3-4 hours or 6 hours. 6 hours after NSG came, and the news channels were showing from where NSG commandos are going. Those things were there. यार हाँ मतलब I just realized I was reading in the newspaper that previously also a lot of blasts have happened in Delhi. Some Sarojini Nagar, some blast happened in the market. 100 people died. I don't know. I mean, they are not very much taught to us in school or anything. But this was in I guess 2004 or 5. But Mumbai attacks I vividly remember. As a kid, I read in the newspaper. How old all of you were during Mumbai attacks? You remember when it happened? 2008. 2002 born. directorate view, right? Directorate view. The Secretariat's bureaucratic interference, the Secretariat's bureaucratic interference and lack of technical understanding, and lack of technical understanding causes delays and poor execution, causes delays and poor execution. The first ARC, the first ARC recommended the secretary should focus on policy, planning and finance, while the director should be given full autonomy, should be given full autonomy in execution, in execution and internal administrative matters. You all understand this? Now write a PYQ. We'll discuss the answer. I'll discuss the answer on this. Question is lack of clear demarcation of roles. Lack of clear demarcation of roles. Of roles between the state secretariat, between the state secretariat and the directorate has serious implications, has serious implications for policy making, for policy making and policy implementation, policy implementation. Right, the state secretariat, this is the introduction part. The state secretariat and various directorates are intended to be the twin pillars of state administration, acting as the brain and hands of the government. Acting as the brain, hands of the government. Next point, right? Next point, you explain what secretariat and directorates are. Right, one line in that. Next, to come to the actual parts of the answer. However, in practice, the boundaries between these two entities have become deeply blurred, This functional overlap has led to significant inefficiencies, a persistent policy implementation gap, weak accountability, and the politicization of routine administration. And the politicization of routine administration. This creates serious obstacle. This creates serious obstacle to effective governance. Mm, obstacles to effective governance or efficient governance, whatever. Then write the ideal division. Basically, we'll write this answer. Why we are writing this answer is basically whatever they ask regarding this, our answer has everything. Right? The ideal division of function. Ideal division of functions is hierarchical and distinct. Hierarchical and distinct, often described as line staff distinction. Line staff distinction or division. The secretariat acts as the staff, while directorate is the line. The secretariat acts as the staff, while the directorate is the line. Now, you have written all the details before. Now, come to the next part of the question. Causes of this blurred distinction or causes of blurred demarcation. This current state of overlap is not accidental, but is the result of several factors. First is historical legacy. The secretariat, the secretariat, uh, the secretariat that is a remnant of the colonial system, is a remnant of colonial system, has always held a position of prestige and power, has always held a position of prestige and power, viewing itself as the government, as the proper government, while treating the directorates, while treating the directorates as subordinate technical offices, as subordinate technical offices. Second point, the generalist dominance. The dominance of generalist cadre, that is the IAS, the dominance of generalist cadre in the secretariat, in the secretariat often leads to often leads to a lack of trust, often leads to a lack of trust in the technical competence of specialist cadres. Technical, huh? In the technical, in the technical competence of specialist cadres. In the technical competence of specialist cadres who typically head the directorates. So these specialist cadres can be engineers, doctors, agricultural scientists, things. Next point is political interference. Ministers often prefer to use the secretariat. Ministers often prefer to use the secretariat and its generalist officers, generalist officers to direct control over routine matters like transfers, procurement, bypassing the directorate's formal authority. Bypassing the directorate's formal authority. Fourth point is financial control. Fourth point is financial control. The secretariat retains ultimate control over the budget. Retains ultimate control over the budget, which it uses as a lever. Which it uses as a lever to intervene in the operational details of the directorates. Intervene in the operational details of the directorates. Details of the directorates. Then next point is implications of these broad roles. Implications of these blurred roles. This diffusion of authority has severe consequences. Has severe consequences for both formulation and implementation of policy. For both formulation and implementation of policy. So first is implications on policy making. Implications on policy making. So first, within implications of policy making, first point is ivory tower policies. Ivory tower policies. It is when the secretariat drafts policies without sufficient technical and ground level feedback. Without sufficient technical and ground level feedback. Ground level feedback from the directorate. Ground level feedback from the directorate. The policies become unrealistic. Policies become unrealistic and divorced from field realities. Policies become unrealistic and divorced from field realities. Example, an agricultural policy might be framed at the secretariat focusing on a new high yield crop without incorporating technical expertise of unsuitable climatic conditions. Unsuitable climatic conditions. Now, this example can be classic. A classic example of this is, especially in Marathwada region, sugarcane cultivation is done for the sugar cooperatives that is there. Now, that region is a drought-prone area. When crops like sugarcane are grown, which require a lot of water, this creates more problems of groundwater depletion and soil becoming very saline in nature. So, policies such as this, implementing or promoting sugarcane cultivation in rural areas. So this shows what? There is an intent to increase farmers' income, but it is leading to lot of drought and it is leading to crop failure. And this eventually increases farmer suicides because they have taken loans to make those crops. So these are the problems that actually arise in real life when it comes to ivory tower policies like this. Yes. Next is sluggish formulation under implications for policymaking. The policy making process becomes sluggish as the secretariat gets bogged down in operational details instead of focusing on the broader policy framework focusing on the broader policy framework. Then second is implications on policy implementation. Implications on policy implementation. First is execution delays and micromanagement. Execution delays and micromanagement. Constant interference from the secretariat. Constant interference from the secretariat on routine operational matters robs the directorate of the autonomy robs the directorate of the autonomy for swift and effective implementation for swift and effective implementation. Files move back and forth for trivial approvals causing immense red tapeism. Comes disempowerment of field agencies. Next point within this, disempowerment of field agencies. Disempowerment of field agencies as Michael Lipsky noted, effective implementation relies on the discretion of street level bureaucrats. Street level bureaucrats. Street level bureaucrats. That is teachers, doctors, police officers. When the directorate that manages them, when the directorates that manages them is itself disempowered, this entire implementation machinery is crippled. This entire implementation machinery is crippled. And the next point within this is erosion of accountability. Erosion of accountability. The blurred roles create a convenient environment for blame shifting. The blurred roles create a convenient environment for blame shifting. The Secretariat can blame the Directorate for poor execution. The Secretariat can blame the Directorate for poor execution, while the Directorate can blame the Secretariat for a flawed policy or inadequate resources. This makes it impossible to pinpoint responsibility for failure. This makes it impossible to pinpoint responsibility for failure. Let's take a 5 minutes break. A few other things about second ARC will also write in this one. What did we write last? We had to write second ARC one, huh? Right? Second ARC recommendations regarding this. Second ARC recommendations regarding this. First is clear functional division. Clear functional division that the secretariat should confine itself to policy formulation, etc. Second point, empower directorates. Empower directorates. All executive functions, all executive functions and routine administrative matters should be delegated from secretariat to directorates. Be delegated from secretariat to directorates. Next point is fix accountability. Directorates must be made autonomous. Directorates must be made autonomous and held accountable for performance and program outcome. Next is strengthen leadership. Strengthen leadership. Directorates should be headed by high caliber professionals and specialists with security of tenure. High caliber professionals and specialists with security or secure tenure. Second ARC itself is saying these directorates should be professionalized. Now, there is another best practice, right? Under best practices, United Kingdom have something called next steps agencies. Next steps agencies model introduced in 1988. It separated the policy functions of Whitehall departments from executive functions, from the executive functions which were delegated to autonomous executive agencies with clear performance targets. To autonomous executive agencies with clear performance targets. Now you understand 1988. What was going on in 1988 in United Kingdom? Who was the Prime Minister then? Or what movement was going on during that time? Thatcherism was going on. Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan in the 70s and 80s, they wanted to change the orientation of administration towards more efficient and profit making, cut down the losses of the government. Now, you have written this Whitehall departments. Basically, Whitehall departments are like government departments whose policy making functions and executive functions were divided. Okay? So, policy making, any issues with policy, you hold the Whitehall departments accountable, and these executive agencies are responsible for all the executive functions. Then, then what? This much we should write in the answer. Apart from this, next topic, let's move on. Finance commission we have to do, or have we done it? Finance commission is not done, right? Commission is not done. Finance Commission. Finance Commission is not done. What else is in the syllabus? Can you check within this particular unit? Finance Commission is remaining only. In this unit only Finance Commission is there. ठीक है, Finance Commission करते हैं. Finance Commission, you guys just remember, Finance Commission is asked directly in the questions, or its functions are directly asked in your paper 2 questions. Functions of Finance Commissions are what? I mean, it's especially deciding how to devolve or how to distribute finance across the country, between states, between different states, between center and states, both horizontal and vertical distribution or devolution. So that is what Finance Commission decides. ऊपर ऊपर से ये हिसाब किताब. When you go back home today, your homework is to study about the last Finance Commission under N.K. Singh's chairmanship. What did that Finance Commission do? What were its recommendations? Take out some article that must be published either in it must be published in Yojana. Yojana, it must be published in. Take out the article from there, study it thoroughly, what the Finance Commission has said. It will help you in especially your paper 2. Of course, public administration, both papers it will help you. But in GS2 and GS3 also it will help you. In Indian economy and governance, it will help you a lot. Go thoroughly what Finance Commission, what all Finance Commission has said, what all are its recommendations, why certain recommendations have been made. Okay, remember all of those things, remember those pointers. Okay. So let's start. Finance Commission. Which article of the Constitution is Finance Commission? Article 280 is Finance Commission. Remember this. Whenever you write Finance Commission anywhere in your exam, write Article 280 in the bracket. Fetches half a mark to you. Free के marks हैं सब, ठीक. 280, 280, ठीक. The Finance Commission of India, right? The Finance Commission of India is a constitutional body. Finance Commission of India is a constitutional body established under Article 280. It is tasked with the distribution of financial resources between the union and the states. Between the union and the states, ensuring a balanced allocation of funds that addresses regional disparity and promotes fiscal stability. Addresses regional disparity and promotes fiscal stability. Promotes fiscal stability. What does this word fiscal mean? So finance, but what finance? Why fiscal? What is the difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy? Who? So when yes. So who decides the monetary policy? RBI. Who decides the fiscal policy? The government. So this should be clear. Fiscal means government money. That is fiscal. Anything that government does with money, the government does with money, is fiscal. Fiscal policy is what? The government schemes that spends money, that is related to money. Is fiscal policy. Monetary policy is controlling the money supply of supply in the economy. Monetary policy and fiscal policy. Now, when it comes to fiscal policy of the government has to follow certain guidelines. Certain guidelines in the sense RBM Act is 2002 or 2004. I'll remember. It is B maybe 2003-4 वो check कर लेना. Basically, FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act. FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management. This FRBM Act was brought in to solve a particular problem. 2003 na? Previously, whenever the government, you understand what deficit means? Deficit and surplus. So the spending of the government is more as compared to their earning. That means the budget is running on deficit. Okay? If the budget is in deficit, here what happens is the government borrows money from somewhere. Right? What the government used to do before, before 2003, especially in the 1990s, till 1990s, whatever the extra money that the government needed, government used to ask RBI to print it. RBI used to print money and government used to invest that money into the economy. Okay? This was the practice. This was a common practice during that time. There are other reasons also, but one of the reasons is this. This practice was called monetization of deficit. Monetization of deficit. And this comes under the practice of deficit financing. How do you finance deficit? You can take loans, you can ask RBI to print, or you can reduce your spendings. So under monetization of deficit, government used to plan this particular thing. What used to happen is, it used to increase inflation significantly. Because there is no goods and services that is produced in the economy, but that money is being printed and distributed. How is money created in an economy? No, when it comes to how is wealth created in the economy, forget money. That is balance of payments. But how is wealth created in an economy? For example, a state. For example, UP wants to be a $1 trillion economy by whatever year they have decided. What does that mean? If UP is $1 trillion economy, what is the value of that $1 trillion? It is the GDP of that particular region. Right? Now, GDP, how does GDP increase? Production of goods and services. If there is production of goods and services, for example, the worth of production of goods and services is 100 rupees. ठीक है? 100 rupees का प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है एक पर्टिकुलर कंट्री में ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. इस कंट्री में अगर हम लोगों को 1000 रुपए दे दें, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज तो सेम है ना, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज सेम है, मनी इज मोर, दैट मीन्स people will buy the same thing with more money, right? That is the only logic. What used to happen when RBI is printing more money, but in the economy, the GDP growth is happening at a X rate, but RBI is printing money X plus, for example, 1000. This 1000 is inflation or not? Yes. To solve this problem, now understand this very carefully, why FRBM came into being. To solve this particular problem of monetization of deficit, the RBI brought in something called ways and means advances. Okay? So that government, anything the government wants from RBI, government takes loans from RBI. Government does not give out anything. Under FRBM Act, what came into being was the government has to control a few things in the economy. The debt to GDP ratio should be below 60% for the whole of India. I'll explain what this is. And inflation should be 4% plus minus 2% is the tolerance band. I'll explain. Debt to GDP ratio. Now, if India's economy is 1000 rupees, okay? 1000 rupees is India's GDP. Or let's say 100 crore rupees is India's GDP. What is the debt to GDP ratio that is recommended? 60%. So, for a GDP of 100 crore rupees that India runs, Indian government, state government and central government combined should only take loans up to 60 crores. They should not take more loans than that. Now, you must have heard there is the US bonds, treasury bonds. People are selling off those treasury bonds, especially China is selling off US treasury bonds. For example, these are what? These are US government taking loans from outside bodies by issuing these bonds, right? Treasury bonds. If people are selling off these bonds and getting back money from the US government, that means government is repaying those loans, right? US is almost in debt of more than $30 trillion. The US economy is almost $30 trillion. So how much is the debt to GDP ratio in this case? If the loans are 30 trillion and the economy is 30 trillion, how much is the ratio in this situation? 100%. Debt to GDP ratio is 100%. I mean, the amount of GDP you have, that is the amount of debt you have. Okay? That means what? That means there has been fiscal irresponsibility, that your whole year's income is will take it to pay back the debt you have income. That is why so much tariffs, etc. conundrum is going on. So the government, so US government wants to try to reduce these deficit that is there. So this is called total debt to GDP ratio, or that is also called fiscal deficit. With time, fiscal deficit builds up with a higher debt to GDP ratio. Presently, India's debt to GDP ratio is somewhat more than 80%, center state combined. What is recommended here is 60%. Yes. In this 60%, 40% should be center, 20% should be state. So all the states combined, their uh, their debt should only be 20%, and center alone should be 40%. This is the maximum limit. So eventually, you need to reduce these things, right? Reduce these things. How do you reduce these things? You take less loans, you spend less, you earn more money. That is the logic. Now, this is the first part, debt to GDP ratio, what the FRBM Act talks about. Second part is the inflation tolerance band. Inflation is around, it changes. It might be 6%, it might be 2%, it might be 3%. So RBI says, no, FRBM Act says that RBI or the government should keep the inflation within 4% plus minus 2%. So 4% is ideal, but you should keep it between 2% to 6%. Minus 2 plus 2. This is the tolerance band. This much is tolerable. If you go higher than that, and or if you go lower than that, then RBI has to give in written to the central government why this is going lesser than that. So inflation has to be controlled. So FRBM Act is very much necessary, and FRBM Act might directly be asked as an act itself in your paper 2 question. So you understand why FRBM Act is there? So that government spends responsibly, and uh, FRBM, fiscal response, budgetary management. So that a particular government does not come in and take a lot of loans and give out to or and spend it, and the subsequent government has no money to pay it back. So FRBM Act was brought in. So you understand FRBM Act, right? Now, FRBM Act, how is it checked that FRBM Act is being implemented or not? The Finance Commission sees that are all the states within this particular limit or not. If they are not within that limit, how to fix it? Why are they not within that particular limit? Okay, so all of these reasoning is done by the Finance Commission. Finance Commission acts as a recommendation body that what exactly to do and how to solve this problem. Okay? Board looks like a statistics class. X plus 1000. Are all of you very comfortable in math? No? You? No. Why so? Math, huh? Uh-huh. Finance Commission. लिख लो Finance Commission. क्या लिखा था लास्ट लाइन? Now, right, key issues for the Finance Commission. First is vertical imbalance. Vertical imbalance. There is a significant imbalance in financial resources, in the financial resources of the union and state government. Union and state government, with the union controlling a larger share of revenue, controlling a larger share of revenue, larger share of revenue, while the states, while the states have greater expenditure responsibilities, while the states have greater expenditure responsibilities. Article 280 empowers the Finance Commission. Article 280 empowers the Finance Commission to recommend measures, to correct this imbalance. But the increasing centralization of revenues, has exacerbated, right? How is it pronounced? Exacerbated. Exacerbated the issue. EXA, CER, BATED, exacerbated the issue. So the first time I took class, I never spoke for so long. Especially in college, I used to do debating. There, we used to get in Asian parliamentary debating around 7 minutes 20 seconds to speak. That was the highest amount we used to speak, and we used to have a lot of content to speak. But especially when taking a class of at least, let's say, 2 hour long, first time when I took it, I realized it takes a lot of stamina. So, speaking for so long, because I especially in well before this, while working Delhi High Court, there used to be certain matters that used to go on for a very long time, such as especially civil disputes. They used to go on for very long time, connected matters. So every date there used to be an argument that used to go on for from 2:30 to 4:30. There used to be time fixed arguments. So 2:30 to 4:30, a lawyer used to stand and argue for 2 hours. And I used to think that how can that person argue for 2 hours? Few months fast forward, here I am speaking for 2.5 hours. So now I think that okay, I mean, you're doing fine enough job, not some big deal. I mean, yeah, a matter of practice only. I mean, yeah. That does not give out quality at all. But I mean, again, those are especially this 2 hour thing that used to happen. It used to be a connected land matter. I mean, it was a land dispute. तो उसमें map वैप में दिखाना कि this tehsil, this that. So that used to happen half of the time. Yeah. Next, right within this point only. So the names I'm giving you, these are actually huge economists who have been part of finance commission, previous finance commission, things like that. We write their names and we'll fetch one extra mark. Economist Dr. M. Govinda Rao. M. Govinda Rao, economist, was part of the 14th finance commission actually. So he argues that vertical imbalance undermines the autonomy of the states, making them autonomy of the states, making them overly dependent on central transfers. Now understand these two lines. Okay? One line says that vertical imbalance undermines the autonomy of the states, making them overly dependent on central transfers. It's a very generic line, right? But once we mention the name of M. Govinda Rao, it suddenly looks like कि भाई क्या बोल दिया है. So that is what you need to do in the exam. You have to write these key names. Just make whenever it comes to public finance, you just name drop a few people. Okay, M. Govinda Rao. There is another Ronik Roy, another economist. I must have written it in my copy somewhere. Wait, पता नहीं जब आएगा आएगा. Second point is historical imbalances, or sorry, horizontal imbalances. Horizontal imbalances. there are wide disparities. There are wide disparities in the fiscal capacities of different states. Wide disparities in the fiscal capacities of different states, leading to unequal access to leading to unequal access to resources for development resources for development and welfare programs. Resources for development and welfare programs. Example would be states such as Bihar has much less GDP per capita or per capita income as compared to a state like Maharashtra for Tamil Nadu. Therefore, there is a need of redistributive transfers. There is a particular case law. So in paper 2 also, you'll have to put in certain case laws wherever you find. I told you that day, right? On that environmental case, MK Ranjit Singh versus New York, India. We use that case law. So, state of Karnataka versus Union of India, 1997 case, 1977 case. Here, the Supreme Court emphasized the need for equitable distribution of resources to maintain something called the federal balance. To maintain federal balance. Third point, after horizontal imbalance, third issue that or the challenge that Finance Commission faces is the use of population data. Is the use of population data. The use of outdated population data. Use of outdated population data such as the especially the 1971 census. I have to explain something. लिख लो पहले ये वाला फिर समझाता हूँ. Such as the 1971 census, in determining the distribution of funds, has been contentious. यहाँ रुक जाओ. Understand something. Now tell me, out of your general understanding, how much which states, according to you, have done well in terms of population control since, for example, 1971? Which states have done well? Kerala and Tamil Nadu and southern states, especially southern states. So, southern states have done a very good job in terms of population control. Northern states, especially the Uttar Pradesh, Bihar belt, Bengal belt, they haven't done a very good job in population control. Population has boomed. That is why the average age of people staying in Tamil Nadu is a bit higher than people staying in Bihar, for example. So, working population is Bihar in Bihar is that's why more, or in UP is that's why more as compared to southern states. So, there is a demographic disparity right now. There are more people of working age in the northern states, but the industries are in the coastal or the southern states. This is leading to mass migration from states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And that is why these are issues in their state elections. Now, migrant labor crisis is because of this, right? Because there is disparity. I mean, northern states have not worked in population control very well. That's why even if an industry is in Tamil Nadu, people from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar will come and work there, not people from Tamil Nadu. Why? Because they have been skilled, their age group is much more higher, or the population staying in Tamil Nadu have a higher standard of living. Now, whenever devolution happens, devolution recommended by the Finance Commission happens, there are certain criteria that is taken into question. First criteria is, for example, population. Now imagine Sikkim is one state. Similar size is Delhi. Sikkim and Delhi are geographically the similar size. But Delhi's population is 2.5 crore. Sikkim population would be what? 3-4 lakhs. So, do you think who should receive more money? Delhi or Sikkim? Delhi automatically. No. For devolution of funds to state government, one thing is kept in mind is population. Population is the primary thing. Now let's take two examples of Tamil Nadu and UP. Tamil Nadu did a lot of hard work. Its state government created certain population policies, its state implemented the population policies, and it brought down the population. Uttar Pradesh failed in doing that, so population increased. But when it comes to finance commission, who does finance commission give more money to? Tamil Nadu or Uttar Pradesh? Uttar Pradesh, right? But who did more effort? Tamil Nadu did. To reduce this impact of high population growth in northern states of India and low population growth in southern states of India, a particular time period was taken from which population is counted. What is this time period? The census of 1971. 1971, in 1970s, population control policies were brought in significantly, and southern states implemented it. So from there, the growth rate between northern states and southern states started increasing. That's why a date or a census that predates population control measures is taken as a base date. That's right. For this to happen, so that is why, so that there is no disparity between this. Whatever is your population in 1971, according to that population proportion, we give you that much amount. Now there are two arguments for this. Of course, something that predates it is taken into. But the problem is the population has also shifted a lot. There are a lot of population migration that has happened, and population growth has other reasons also. And giving more money to an industrialized state and not giving a lot of money to a much poorer state, this creates more disparity. Yes? Rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. That is why the argument was brought in that population as a measure will be there, of course, but there will be other measures also. So what usually the Finance Commission does is it also takes other measures. Before also it used to take other measures, but why I'm discussing this, I mean explain you a key difference here. Other measures that were taken by the Finance Commission before, it was like population, land area, and population and land area were the primary things. What the 15th Finance Commission did, or 16th, just check which was the Finance Commission in 2019 under NKC. It was the Finance Commission. Or the 16th Finance Commission. एनके सिंह के अंडर 2019 में कौन सा फाइनेंस कमीशन बना था? 2017 में कैसे कब बना था? The report came out in 2021. 15th Finance Commission. This was under NK Singh. Chairman was NK Singh. 16th Finance Commission कब बनेगा? Arvind Panagaria was 14th Finance Commission. Arvind Panagaria was 16th Finance Commission. अच्छा, it is the recent Finance Commission that has been constituted. और इसका रिपोर्ट कब आएगा? We should wait then. Oh no. It must already be out ना? ठीक है. So 15th and 16th both we will study. 15th पढ़ लेते हैं. 15th में what NK Singh committee did, NK Singh मतलब ये 15th Finance Commission. Oh, my friend just met Arvind Panagaria a few days back. He launched some book, so there he met Arvind Panagaria. No, he met Arvind Subramaniam. Sorry, not Panagaria. 15th Finance Commission. 15th Finance Commission said these two metrics are not that well representing of states' effort. We'll add something to it. We'll give extra money to people who have taken population control measures. Yes, it solves that problem that we discussed. Second, we'll take forest cover so that states are automatically incentivized to increase their forest cover. Are you able to understand? And the population we'll take off is of 2011 census. Okay? 2011 census, the population will be taken. It will be distributed according to population, land area, population control measures. Whoever has taken a lot of population control measures. So this came as a respite to the southern states, and forest cover. These were the changes that was brought in. You can see why these things are being brought in by the Finance Commission, so that states are incentivized to control their population, increase their forest cover, things like that. Because population and land area are essentially, if a state is inheriting a good population and a good land area, it's not their achievement. State reorganization was done according to that. So why should a state always have an advantage because of this? Right? This was the discussion that is to be happening. Now, Finance Commission, right? The 15th Finance Commission, or write something, has been contentious. You wrote till contentious, I believe. What was the last word you wrote? Contentious. Huh? Right? Because it disadvantages it disadvantages states that have successfully controlled population growth. The 15th Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission recommended the use of 2011 census data, 2011 census data, while also incorporating incentives for states that have performed well in controlling population growth. The next issue that Finance Commission dealt with was the increasing fiscal deficit and debt burden. Many states such as Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Kerala, face rising fiscal deficit and mounting debt burdens, limiting their capacity to invest in critical sectors, to come again, mounting debt burdens, limiting their capacity to invest in critical sectors like health, education, and infrastructure, health, education, and infrastructure. Article 293, Clause 3. Article 293, Clause 3 requires the states to seek the central government's permission before borrowing, leading to further central control over states' finances. Uh, what all provisions have you written? 280 you have written, 293, 3 you have written till now, right? Another provision you write, Article 275. Article 275, it provides for grants in aid actually. Grants in aid to states, grants in aid to states in need of financial assistance, as determined by the Finance Commission, to supplement the resources of the state. Supplement the resources of the state. So, three applicable provisions you have written. Write another thing. The 15th Finance Commission. So, under 15th Finance Commission, what all have you written? 15th Finance Commission. There is a point that you wrote, right? 2011 census wala. वहां पे जगह है, बचा है तुम्हारा? नहीं, तो लिख लो, फॉलोइंग में लिखो 15th फाइनेंस कमीशन 2017 to 2021. 2017 to 2021, it recommended 2011 census data to reflect demographic changes. While providing incentive for states that have effectively managed population growth. It suggested the creation of a fiscal council. To monitor and enforce fiscal discipline at both the union and state levels. At both the union and state levels. 16th Finance Commission will have to write. I'll make particular notes on that. Judgments, what all you have written? State of Karnataka versus Union of India, you have written. But ठीक है, this much only. We'll discuss 16th Finance Commission tomorrow. 16th Finance Commission will be directly asked next year, for sure. Recommendations will be directly asked. Hmm? What is going to end? The classes. Yeah, yeah. It'll take some more time. There are units left. That's the thing. सारे कौन? नहीं यार, सारे coins are printed by government only. RBI only prints currency. हाँ, कुछ और है क्या? Coins are printed by the government, right? Yeah.